Welcome back to Voice of the People on Observer Radio 91.1 FM. It's 12:31 in the afternoon. Paul is in the house, and Paul is so very honored. I am so very honored to have Miriam Samuel, Mrs. Miriam Samuel, in the studio with me. She's a longtime educator. She taught all her life, and she's now she has ventured out into many other fields. She has been a Christian, a strong Christian in the Wesleyan Church all her life as well, and raised 5 beautiful children. They're doing their thing in various endeavors around Antigua and Barbuda and further afield. And she's showing no signs of slowing down. In fact, about 3 years ago, I was having a conversation with somebody, Sister Samuel, she don't know this, but the person said, "Oh, she just started learning Spanish. She can do she can speak Spanish." So that's the kind of lady she is. There is the Spanish Institute across the road from where she lives, and she just decided, rather than sitting around, she was going to go and take some courses in Spanish. So she can speak Spanish as well. Sister Samuel, welcome to Voice of the People.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sister Samuel. Now, you grew up, what was your name before you became Samuel?
Fleming.
Is that a big family in Antigua and Barbuda?
Well,
I'm not familiar with that name.
No. My grandfather was from Anguilla.
From Anguilla.
So he came to Antigua to work, got married, had a family. I don't know what happened to him, if he died or what, but some of the children went back to Anguilla, and my father was born.
Oh, okay.
So I was born in Anguilla.
You were born in Anguilla, all right. And I know you can proudly say this because you look good for your age, and that was how many years ago?
Oh, 8 years ago.
Very, very good. And you are still going strong, Sister
Yes.
Samuel. What's the secret to that vibrancy, that longevity? You're still so sprightly. You still drive too, don't you?
Yes, I do.
You still drive, and you have a small business which you make the nicest treats that folks can have, and you're going to share some of that information with us. What's the secret to this longevity?
Put God first in your life.
Uh-huh.
And let go anything bother you. We're human, and we're going to get upset, but let it go and move on.
Now, you got saved at what age?
17?
17 years old, and you've never looked back.
No.
Yes, there. Now, I remember when Brother Charlesworth Samuel, he had to be early the next morning. He would just come over to St. John's because it was a hop, skip, and jump from Casala Gardens rather than going out to suites at nights. And so you guys became a part of the St. John's family. I meant all the others.
That is true, yes.
Yes. And now, Sister Samuel, tell us a little bit about your teaching. When did you start?
I didn't want to teach.
You didn't? No?
No, I wanted to nurse. But every door was closed. But before my father died, he predicted that my older brother would be a carpenter, and I would be a teacher, and I didn't want to teach at all.
Why you didn't want to teach?
I don't know. I just wanted to nurse.
Okay.
So after every door was closed, I decided to
Go into teaching.
go into teaching.
And how many years you spent in teaching?
I'm still teaching.
You stay well. I know. When I was talking about you earlier, I said, when I got to Sister Samuel's house, she had a young girl there that she's teaching the ins and outs of the craft. In fact, what was she making yesterday? You were teaching her?
Well, she was going to make the coconut bread, and we also did some fudge.
And you also...
And that was the first lesson.
Oh, very, very good. You have any fudge here with you?
Yes.
Yeah. I have a sweet tooth, Sister Sarah. If you can leave it, please, with me. A little something, you know? And by the way, talking about fudge, my Aunt B, she taught at the high school, She's 88, I think, about your age. And she still makes what I consider to be the best fudge.
Well, we have to compete.
Yeah. Deborah Lovell, she said, when we were in high school, we always loved your Tante's fudge.
Okay.
And I said, she's still quite good at it. In fact, the other day she made some for Deborah Lovell as well.
She's here?
Tanti? Yes, she's here. She lives out at Paradise View.
I have to go and look for her. She's my friend.
Yeah. You know, both of you taught together for a while, didn't you?
No.
Because she taught at the high school before moving to the Virgin Islands and then moving on to the States.
And by the way, she was or is married to a cousin of mine, Owen.
Yes. Oh, yes, because the Owens are from Anguilla, aren't they?
Yes.
And Sammy Owen, God bless his heart, we were in sixth form together. And she has two beautiful girls, Jem and Joelle.
Okay.
And they're serving, one's a doctor and the other one's a psychiatrist. Those are my cousins. And they're in the Virgin Islands. Yes. But she just wrote a book. And we'll unveil it at some point, but it's already been published. It's telling the story of the move from Wintops to New Wintops. Remember, during the war, the Americans felt that they needed that place up there, so the villagers had to move. Yes. Now, what schools did you teach at over these years, those that you can remember?
I think I have taught in the most schools in Antigua.
Tell us.
9 schools.
9 schools.
I started at All Saints Primary. I didn't spend very long there. Then I moved on to Grace Hill before it became Liberta. And I stayed at Liberta for 9 years. After I got married, my husband was the headmaster. He was transferred to John Hughes, and he transferred me with him.
Sounds like my mommy and daddy, too. Yeah.
And from there, he got a scholarship to go to Barbados, and he decided there's going to be a riot in Antigua. That was 1966. And he's going to take out his family. So by the end of 1966, I think the 1st of January, you remember they had those 2 boats?
Yes.
Federal Palm, Federal,
and Federal
Maple.
Maple. Yes.
And we were on that.
How many? Clement was on that, and Dewey?
I had 3
children at the time.
at that time. The first one was 2 years older than the third. Megan made her first birthday in Barbados.
Okay. So how long you lived there all told?
About 6 years. I also have a Bajan son.
Yes.
Calvin.
And he's in England
He's
now,
in England,
he?
yes. And I actually taught in Barbados at the Modern High School. On returning, well, Charles had failed his finals, so he had to do an extra year. So when I got back, they said, well, you only applied for 4 years. You have to apply for the other one. It took them 5 months before it was approved. And I was placed at Potter's. All this time I wasn't teacher trained, you know? And then teacher trained. Well, let me back up. In the summer, the teachers' union used to have these summer classes. So when I got back, what the Canadians were teaching for craft, the Antiguans didn't want. So Sylvania King, she came to Barbados and saw what I was doing and spoke to Mr. Charles Roberts, who was he was my headmaster at Liberta. And so she spoke with him and he asked me. I said, sure. So I taught the craft at that session. And after that, I was sent to be teacher trained. When I got there, I had to teach the craft to the students. And at the end of the course, I didn't have any mark on my certificate. It didn't bother me, you know?
Very good. Now, Sister Samuel, back in the day, and this is when your husband entered politics, there was the big controversy in the church
Yes.
that, Christians should not be involved in politics. And Brother Charles Samuel, God bless his soul, I'll tell you that. He said, look, I am serving my God, and I believe this is the best way that I can serve my fellow man and serve my God and my country. And he went ahead and entered into politics. This is 1976. But the church was divided. Some was saying, no, it's quite all right. These are the people we need in government. Yeah. We need men of faith. We need men of God serving in government. They'll do right by the people. What were your thoughts on it? When your husband came to you and said, look, honey, I want to go into politics. I want to serve the people.
Well, he didn't tell me.
He didn't tell you?
Well, Clement used to go around with him a lot.
Yeah.
And Clement would come and tell me, Daddy said this and Daddy said that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one day he said to me, they can't find anybody. Uh-huh. So they asked him. I said, they can't find anybody because you don't want them to find anybody. I didn't want him to go into politics.
But he made such a sterling contribution. And it was always a treat listening to him on the floor in Parliament. And there were times when he was there all by his lonesome, no? Representing the opposition?
Yes.
Yes, there were times when...
So, after he decided that is what he wanted, I supported him.
Yes, yes.
Yeah? And that's history.
And that's history, very good. We're going to take a break and come back with more Voice of the People.
PDV Cab announces the distribution of the Utility Subsidy Voucher Booklet for the period March 2023 to August 2023 at the Multipurpose Cultural Center beginning Monday, February 20th until Friday, February 24th, 2023, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily. Distribution is for 1 week only and will be done alphabetically by surname as per the information leaflet in your current booklet, or you can contact the office at 562-6185 or 562-6189 to confirm your day of collection. Please present the beneficiary's expired booklet or Social Security pension card with your valid Antigua and Barbudan picture ID. Remember, it's 1 week only. Make every effort to collect at the distribution center as specified to avoid any loss of benefits.
At Subway, we're keeping the fast food game fresh.
Yes.
Now you can order directly on the Subway app or at subwayantigua.com. Choose a restaurant, customize your meal, and set a pickup time.
Ooh.
Or get it freshly delivered from one of our Subway partners, such as Carrot Bites, Quick Serve, or Allmart.
Wow.
See, I told ya. Subway. Eat fresh.
Automotive art is a place to start.
Yeah, look, check. We got a wide range of products that are automotive and do-it-yourself supplies if you got a moment. Smart staff that'll always know it. Got rims and tires from trucks to high performance to off-roading. Start hair tools, batteries, oil, and car care.
Automotive art is a place to start.
This is Observer Radio.
You're listening to the Voice of the People on Observer Radio.
Welcome back to Voice of the People on Observer Radio 91.1 FM. It's 12:45 in the afternoon. Paul and Mrs. Miriam Samuel, we're all in the house, and she has much to share. This is all part of our featuring of great Antiguans, iconic Antiguans, those who have done right by us over the years for Black History Month. Before we get back to our discussion, of course, here's some great news from Jews. It's a fencing February. Fall in love even more with the fence of your dreams. Enjoy 20% off easy fence material, and when you purchase $50 or when you purchase 50 or more, you'll get 6% off your next purchase with us. You must present your original receipt to the cashier. So this sounds like a great deal up there with Juice. We all know and love Juice, Chris Williams and them. They know what they're doing. And just go up there, tell them what you need, and you can enjoy that 20% off the Easy Fence material. They're just up there east of you.
I know.
Yeah. Now, Sister Samuel, after you retired, you just didn't want to sit around twiddling your thumbs. You didn't want to just sit around. You went out and went to the Venezuelan Institute, was it? And you.
Well, let's back up.
Go ahead.
Before I retired,
Yeah.
let me say about 10 years before I retired, I was about 50. And I heard these retirees in Trinidad talking about, oh, they're so bored, they can't this, they can't. And they're going to form a group where they can get together and chat. And I said, but hey, I don't want that. I have to find something to do. At one point, I thought of having a daycare. When I examined it, I said, no, I'm not a home person. I said, let me do my gardening. I said, no. And so, well, I learned to do the coconut bread or the sweet bread in Barbados. And life was rough, life was hard. I couldn't afford to buy snacks for my children. So every Sunday afternoon I'd bake about 6. And that would serve them.
Yes.
For the week. After a while, their friends, give me a piece.
Yeah.
Then they want some to take to their mommy. And they would do extra. Then one day I went to Cornwall. I used to buy my flour there. She say, what do you do with all this flour? 10 pounds of flour, so much flour, you know.
Yeah.
I told her. And she said, I said, would you like to sell some for me? No, I'm backing up. When I baked next time, I took one to her. I said, how was it? She said, bang good. I said, would you mind selling some for me? She said, no. And that was my first outlet.
Okay.
This was 10 years before I retired.
Yes. Very good.
So a little later on, I went there in the week, and the husband said to me, you don't bake in the week? I said, no. He said, bake man and sell. And that was my only outlet. $500 per week.
Well, that's good. And back then,
$500
was a lot of money.
A
lot of money. And of course, you got the idea that this thing bang good because the reason that their friends said, give me peace, give me peace. I love this, yeah.
So after that, I started. I said, if Migo man can come here and make it, I don't care how much time you tell me not coming back. And that is what I did. And after a while, well, the children supported me. Calvin was working at the bank. Charlie used to go to the different outlets, different places on Friday mornings. And these were we started. So when I retired, I walked out of my classroom into my bakery. It was well established.
Very, very good. Yes. And you've been at it ever since.
Yes.
But tell us about the going to the institute there, the Spanish Institute. That was a...
Well, don't ask me to talk in Spanish.
No.
I don't know any Spanish. I can, if I see it, I can interpret it, but I just wanted to learn it.
And you did very
and
well.
Anything I see and I want, I go after it.
You go after it. Very good.
At age 80, I used to hear the announcement at GAD about fabric weaving, and I was interested, but because of my business, I didn't get a chance to go. And this announcement was for girls and ladies between 17 and 35. Well, I called them because I want to go. And I said, I'm neither 17 or 35, but I'm interested.
Indeed.
What should I do? So you have to pay. I say, how much? 600. I say, sign me up.
Okay, very good.
So I was the granny for the group.
Yes. Yes.
But I was the only one who was able to purchase a loom because the others weren't working.
Yeah.
So I did that. Plus, I don't know if you know Sister Badnox from Barbados.
No, I'm not familiar with her.
Well, she normally comes, or maybe you're away then, to our church conference, and she would teach different crafts. So she came to Swiss, and she was doing some beadwork.
Oh, dear, that's
And
beautiful.
I was the only one who got it.
Wow.
One
that
of the
is-
ladies said to me, "You have a talent and pushing it onto the bushel." But that same person, when I was president for the ladies group, she would come to the devotion, and after the devotion, she would go home. And I was able to teach the other ladies.
That is beautiful.
The next year she came back, and she was staying with the Kirby's, and I wanted to do the bags.
Wow. You made that bag,
Yeah,
Sister Samuel?
I wanted to do the bags. She was leaving the next day. She showed me the stitch, and the afternoon I reached the airport, and she showed me how to put in the corset,
Very good. Very lovely work.
and that was that.
That was that. Now, Sister Samuel, I need you to take a look at the monitor. There's a surprise there for you. That's your daughter, DeReed.
Hi, DeReed.
Samuel Whitlock.
And the tree.
DeReed, could you unmute? Could you unmute, DeReed? DeReed, welcome
Yes.
to Voice of the People. And I was just telling your mom, take a look at the monitor. I have a surprise for you. It's your dear
Yes,
daughter.
I'm sure she's shocked.
I am.
Well, I was telling your mom that I called you to just give you the alert that I was having your mom, and you said, Paul, she done called me since early this morning to say that
4 day
she's
morning. Yep.
4 day morning. DeReed, welcome.
know.
Welcome. So we're having a chat with
Thank
your mommy.
you.
She's telling us about your time in Barbados. You guys went down on those iconic vessels.
Federal Maple and Federal,
Federal
Palm.
Palm.
That was like the how should I put it? The
cruise ship.
the bottom of the barrel cruise ship. So we were cruising in the 60s, you know. But it was so much fun. It was so much fun. I ran into somebody years ago and told them that I took the Federal Maple and Federal Palm, but I think we took it towards the end. If we didn't take the last cruise, the last year they were in operation, which I think was like in the early 70s, we took, you know, one of the last cruises. We were aware when we were taking that cruise that it would be one of the last.
Oh.
So I was talking to somebody years ago, telling them about, you know, the days with the Federal Maple and Federal Palm, and they're like, "What are you talking about? You're too young. You wouldn't know that." Because I guess, remember, Federal Palm and Federal Maple were running since, you know, the early 60s.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we were on it, you know, we were on it up to the 70s. So I think people kind of forget about that. So he just thought, "What are you talking about? There's no way you could have taken it." But it was an amazing experience.
Indeed. Now, DeReed, you used to always mention to me, "Hey, Paul, you know, go and visit mommy, because mommy, you know, she say that you don't come. Go and visit."
Yes.
So
Yes, I'm happy you went.
Yes, yes. And DeReed, what a factory she has over there. She's making everything over there. Tell us about that.
Well, Paul, she's always had a factory. She's always had something going on. When we lived in Barbados, I tell people she put her husband through college.
Yeah.
When she used to make some crochet bags and hats, all the church ladies came to our house.
Uh-huh.
She would use chain belts, you know, chain belt. She would use, she was so creative. She would use a chain belt and take 4 hoops and attach the handles to the actual crochet bag.
Wow.
So, you know, not, you know, all the craftsmanship and the hardware. She was very meticulous, very neat. I mean, her stuff was creative. So other people were making the same bags and just sewing on the handle. Not my mother. She would go and buy chain links.
Yes.
And she was always doing something creative. Our house has always been a lab.
Yes.
I don't know of a time when my mother isn't trying something new, experimenting. It's not for the money, it's for the love. She is, and growing up with a mother like that, something rubs off on you.
Yes.
I never considered myself crafty or artistic, but when the opportunity calls for it, the resourcefulness, because when you grow up in a house like that where, you use your creativity and what you don't have, you make.
Yes.
Or conceptualize it and get it done.
No, mother and father in the teaching and the education business, what was that like in the home? I mean, very, very strict, go and do your homework, sitting around the table, completing your homework. Go ahead, tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. I think we were all pretty good students, so it wasn't a stretch. It's not, you just grew up in an environment where that's the deal. Daddy, on the other hand, he was always studying for something. He was just a reader. He loved knowledge. So growing up in a house like that, he read the newspaper. I remember being like 4 or 5, and he would read the Barbados Advocate, a huge paper. And, I liked looking at the pictures. He was a news junkie. I remember I remember when President Nixon resigned. I didn't know what it meant. Yeah. But I was right there sitting, listening to the story. And I remember, too, hearing about guerrillas. And in my little mind, I'm thinking, I know they're people, but in my head, I'm thinking they're wearing a gorilla suit. Yeah. So I'm just saying, so he was always very media attentive. Lots of reading, lots of knowledge, lots of storytelling. Another thing that was great, when we lived in Barbados, we knew Barbados better than some of our schoolmates, even though we were not from there, because every Sunday we went sightseeing. So when I talk to Bajan people, and Paul, I still got my Bajan accent, you're
okay, there you go, David. Okay, yeah.
And you got to understand, that's the first place I learned to talk.
Okay, very good, very good.
There's an authentic Bajan accent you're talking about.
David, I have to hand it to you. It is authentic. Very good.
No, when we moved back to Antigua, I had to learn to speak Antiguan. And I would not be bullied. So, my accent was changed like in about 6 weeks.
Okay, very, very good.
So back to your question about what it was growing up. It was a house where there was a lot of knowledge. There was no real pressure because that's just the way it was. Nobody had to force us to study. Clement, as you know, was a genius, brilliant guy, and with a brother like him, very competitive. I really wasn't as into schoolwork as he was. I mean, he was just driven. You know how your firstborns can be. Yeah, firstborns are special. And so it was just a very nurturing environment where there's a lot of knowledge. There are high expectations, very competitive. And just now looking back, we often talk a lot about our experiences, and we were by no stretch of the imagination rich, but I think we were rich in spirit.
Indeed. Now, David, I talking about spirit, we're talking about the Holy Spirit now. You guys went to church in suites. You were ranking members in the church over there, and you would go on a Sunday morning, but every Sunday night you came to St. John's. And my dad was always honored and flattered that here was MP Charlesworth Samuel coming to church. Do you remember every Sunday night my father would call on your father to give the benediction?
What I remember, Paul, is that Solid Gold used to come on Sunday night with Marilyn McCool and I forget who was doing it. Oh, Dion Warwick. Yeah. That's what I remember. And I remember thinking, when is Pastor Quinn going to be done with the service so I can go home and watch? So I can go home and listen to the music. Okay. But no, I distinctly remember those Sunday nights. Yes. We actually enjoyed it because it was a shorter drive, not having to go to suites. It was a different environment.
Yes, indeed.
But I do remember your father always would ask Daddy to pray. Yes. But what I will tell you, Paul, I don't know if I've ever told you this. Your father, I think I shared it with Jacqueline one time. She came on our show. When you got a compliment from Pastor Quinn, he made you feel like you're a supermodel. I remember one time, Mommy introduced us, my sister and I, to him. He'd never met us. And she said, Pastor Quinn, have you met my daughters? He was like, these are your daughters? They're beautiful.
David, stick a pin in it there. We'll take a quick break for the top of the hour.
This is Observer Radio, 91.1 FM.
This hour is brought to you by Battery Engineering. We know batteries inside out.
You're listening to the voice of the people on Observer Radio.
Welcome back to Voice of the People on Observer Radio, 91.1 FM. Paul and Sister Miriam Samuel and her daughter DeReed Samuel Whitlock, we're all in the house. DeReed's joining us by Zoom, the Zoom platform. And DeReed was just sharing that my father had a sweet mouth, no?
Oh, yes.
He had a sweet mouth. And he had a way of making people feel like you're the most important person in the whole wide world.
He certainly did.
And
he certainly did.
That was a quality that I try to emulate as well. I can't do it like he can. And but
Paul, you were well trained. Come on now, you were well trained.
Well, I try. I'm following in big footsteps, big footsteps. But DeReed, your mom, she has ventured, she has turned the page into other chapters in her life. And after you have departed, she will, from this Zoom platform, she will share some of the goodies that she's been making there and all of that sort of stuff. And I shared with you that there was a young lady there, she's been teaching her. Tell us what sort of encouragement you gave Mom when she said, I want to go into this arts and craft thing. I want to go and make jams and jellies. I want to go and make all the sweet treats that make our holidays and make our special moments all the more special.
Well, like I said, Paul, this has been ongoing. She's always been trying. She's always been making something. It's just a transition. She starts with one thing. The jams and jellies have always been there. You can always come to our house and find black cake, jams, wine.
Find something to eat. Always something was there. Walk off
Yes,
the street.
I remember Babbitt Thwaites being in sixth form with me and Melford Nicholas coming to my house getting wine. You know, at the time, I mean, you're not even thinking about it, just 16 or 17, but we just always had goodies in the house.
Yes.
So it's not something we think about. But what I will share is I remember one time coming home from school, you know, coming home from college. And I think by then she might have retired or she was really transitioning into making this a full-time business. And I'm trying to talk to her about finances. You know, because she's doing all this. Are you turning a profit? Are you, you know, so I'm trying to give her...
You had to come with that. You had to come with the nuts and bolts of it. Go ahead.
Well, you know, so I am trying to, you know, she's talking about a full-time business. And Paul, I just had to give up and realize, listen, this is what she loves doing. I remember...
She's not thinking about profit and loss.
I remember Megan and I saying, and even though we say it, her profit is her satisfaction and her happiness and sharing her goodies with people. Amen. And putting a smile on somebody's face. Amen. So I gave up a long time ago. And if you to try to get, it's not going to happen.
No.
Right?
No.
So just be happy that she has, you know, this is like her side hustle.
Yeah.
And she's not depending on, and I had to come to that realization. I was thinking about this as a business. She has her retirement. She lives a simple life. She has the things that she likes and she can afford to do. And so this is a labor of love. So a long time ago, I gave up. Every now and again, I try to help her up with a little marketing. Sometimes she listens, sometimes she doesn't. But again, you know, the satisfaction and the joy that she gets out of it. She's coming at this from a very different vantage point or a different approach than I am. She's just doing it for the love. So once she's happy, and, you know, we're very lucky. We keep saying, you know, let me knock on board. But we're very lucky that at her age, she's still very active. She's very low maintenance. She is more active than some young people. And so at this stage, we feel the fact that she has been blessed with these years beyond. I mean, my father passed on what?
15.
This year makes what, 15 years?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she's been widowed for 15 years and living well. And Paul, one thing I will say is the widowed Miriam is a much different person than the married Miriam. She's been almost like, I was very concerned about, when my dad passed away. I remember her saying to me she had never slept in a house by herself. So I was very concerned about her, but I'm telling you, she really, really metamorphosized into, a very liberated woman.
In fact, and the same thing happened with Sister Lee. Sister Lee.
Yes, but that was her sidekick. That was her sidekick.
Yeah, I know the two of them tight. I know.
Yeah,
Sister, Sister Rosa Lee. After Brother Lee passed on, again, you go through the I wonder what I'm going to do now. My better half, my lifelong companion is now gone. And yet the Lord opens up doors and windows for them, and they're able to blossom and flourish.
Make that transition.
And make that transition beautifully. Even my mommy. The truth is, my dad really didn't like her writing secular stuff, secular work. He said, "Oh, just focus on the Lord. Focus on the women's group and the Sunday school and all of that." And it was only after he passed on that she was able to blossom, if you will, with her writing and other areas that she was interested in, eh?
Yep. One more thing I wanted to point out that we laugh a lot about. Back in the 60s, Paul, how many women could drive?
Not many.
Well, my mother didn't just drive. She had a heavy foot. So it used to be so hilarious. Daddy drove at a snail's pace because, of course, we later figured out that was his move as a politician, right? So the politicians who are out there driving fast with their windows up, they don't get it. He used to drive. It used to annoy us because he would take twice the time to go anywhere. And then we later figured out it was all in the it was all a part of the strategy. He would wave to everybody, toot his horn, wave. He didn't even have to know him. His hand was already up.
Yeah. A gentleman he was, indeed.
Yes, and in contrast, Mommy was a speeder. So I'm saying to you, she's always been a trailblazer and I think it was convenience. You have a family, your husband has his life, she has hers, so she learned how to drive so that she could be more, independent within the marriage.
Indeed.
So what you're seeing now is years of, her just being a maverick, and just willing to try new things and breaking the mold.
In fact, I'll tell you, my mom, way back in the 60s, when my dad got one of his first cars, he decided to teach her to drive. And this is the 60s. She had a small accident, just a small accident while they were driving. And she never went back in a car behind the steering wheel.
Oh, wow.
Never did.
For real?
Yeah, never did. Her whole life. She just never bothered to do this driving thing again.
Well, husband can't teach wife because my husband couldn't teach me. But when we went to Barbados, his brother in the church took me.
Yeah, but they say you should never let a family member teach you to do anything. Because
at one point, John David was teaching me. And he said, if he's not teaching me, nobody going to teach me. So I didn't learn to drive until I went to Barbados.
Oh, okay. Yes. But to read your closing thoughts, thank you for coming in and shedding such beautiful stories.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Paul. I just want to tell my mom, in the presence of everyone, how grateful we are for her. She's been a tremendous help and support to all of her children in different ways. Always willing, before you even ask, you already have a yes. And, she's been a wonderful mother. I think, you get older and you kind of realize where parents are coming from. Yes. And I always say they did the best that they could. Yes. They couldn't give us, we probably judged them. I'm sure we all did. And especially for those of us who grew up in the church, we just thought our parents are so strict and they're not with it. But I think, both my parents, even for people who practiced Christianity and how our church was, they were pretty liberal. They made sure that we got, we got some socialization, we had some extracurricular activities. And as I always say, they worked with what they had. They couldn't be other than they were because they didn't have the knowledge or experience. So I think they just did the best that they could with the knowledge and experience that they had. So they're wonderful parents, and we're blessed with all the memories and all the lessons. And you know how that goes. You get the lessons long after, what is it they say? The lesson comes, it's that saying, you know what I'm talking about? The lesson comes first, or you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, very good. Dorit, I thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And,
you're very welcome.
Our best regards to Gabrielle and Genesis. How are they doing, by the way?
Genesis is in Peru. She's studying political ecology and tropical, I forget what it is. I can't even keep up. So she's doing a semester abroad, and Gabby is at Montclair State, closer to home. They're doing well.
Okay, very good.
And before you leave, Mommy,
Yes.
make sure you hook up Stacy. Okay? Stacy's my girl. Stacy the boss.
Yeah, Stacy Samuel.
Okay, so don't let Paul, make sure you have Stacy's package, please. Stacy Samuel, correct.
That's the lady that just came in here and handed me something. Hey, and Dorit, of course.
That's Stacy Samuel.
Yes, I'll tell you. And Dorit.
I know another Stacy Samuel.
I was about to tell you, and I want to salute you on, I don't remember if it's Genesis or Gabrielle. I've seen and read some of what she's been doing in terms of Black Lives Matter. I saw great photos of her heading up some of the demonstrations, and she had her hand up with her fist clenched, and she had the bullhorn in her hand, and she was and she is doing her thing over there in the United States. Is she still of that persuasion? Still very radical? Still very outspoken?
Of course.
Huh?
Yes, but interestingly, she's very much into agriculture. And she certainly didn't get that from me. She got it from her grandmother growing up in Antigua. She certainly didn't get, I'm not an agricultural person at all. I no shame in my game, not at all. But she is in a school, she got a full scholarship, and the school is one of those schools that works very close with the USDA.
Okay, very good.
So she got the bug, and she's a big farmer, and she's over in the Amazon in Peru, learning helping to cultivate new species of plants, and food sustainability and all these new terms that I've never heard about. Political ecology, Paul.
Okay.
I never heard any such thing.
Well, you're just telling me something I just learned today, just now. I have to Google that. Political ecology.
And then there's another one, because I said, Jen, because I feel like how I used to feel when my mother didn't know what I did and she would speak out of turn. So I'm careful to say, Jen, explain it to me again so I can, I can explain it correctly.
Very good.
She schools me. Yep.
Indeed.
Well, thanks for asking, Paul.
Yes,
indeed. It was great to speak with you guys, and thanks for recognizing my mom. She's an amazing woman, and we're just very happy that we still have her around, and she's alive and kicking with all of her faculties. We're very blessed.
Indeed. Very well said, Dorit, and my pleasure and my honor.